Okay, hey everyone.
Hi,
I'm Julia.
I'm Katie Rubin.
Hi, Katie Rubin.
Hey guys.
And today we're here to talk to you about access consciousness classes.
Every single one of them.
Really is so we'll be here till next week.
Our aim was to have a chat about what happens in each of these classes. What the hell is the difference?
And it's a great, Katie and I do calls, and the other day I was saying, we need to do a conversation about all of the access classes because people do not understand the different things, the different prerequisites, what it takes to become a bars facilitator, what it takes to become a certified facilitator. And I mean, people do, and you can scope it out on the Access website, which is brand new and stunningly beautiful, by the way.
Really great. I'm excited about it.
Really beautiful. But it's kind of different reading things on the internet as opposed to actually hearing probably comedically undertone conversation about what all this stuff is and what you need to take what. And I think I've been to every single access class at one time or another, and Katie's been to a lot. And so we're just going to talk about what these classes are and why we keep repeating the same classes over and over, and why we want to be certified facilitators and bars facilitators and all those different things. So
yay. And I would love to start by asking you if you could talk. Let's start at the totally most insane advanced level, just because.
Sure.
I'm wondering, can you speak about what happens in a Maestro class and what happens in a 7-day? Now, I know a little bit about 7 days only because you and I happen to be doing this book club right now where we're taking folks through the book called Blessed Possibilities, which is a 7-day class transcribed and has been rocking my universe pretty dynamically.
Yep.
I wonder if you could speak about those two classes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for one, I've been playing around with this stuff for a bunch of years now, and I'm like, I have no idea what goes on in those guys.
Yeah. Well, this whole thing might be a little harder to do than I realized until this very second. Because it's all about the energy.
Right.
But a Maestro class, I'm pretty good at putting words to energy when prompted by the right friend, such as you. But the Maestro class, I'll start with the Maestro class. And for everything we talk about, I'm going to try to say the prerequisites so that you know what you have to get. And for those of you who might be new or maybe haven't even taken the 1-day bars class, I don't want to intimidate you with the information that we're about to present. That's not my intention. And it's actually about, I just want to start the whole conversation off with this. I've had to use the tools of Access Consciousness in order to get to the advanced classes. Like I didn't just walk in and, become a maestro. I actually had to call my parents crying for the money to go to Maestro because I was so much in credit card debt and at my wit's end, my first Maestro. And I was like, I'm here in Italy. I flew here. I did the facilitators class. Can you guys please just swap me $2,000? And they did, which was really amazing of them. But not everybody has nice parents. But the thing is, it's like you have to use the tools to get to the access classes because they are priced at a specific point that is a choice point. They're not expensive. They're not inexpensive. They're not anything. They're specifically designed to deliver as much change as you are willing to receive based on the judgment about the money that you paid for the class. And for those of you who have done a bars class and used the tools and had your bars run every day or every week or once a month, it's like, what if you had to go back and revoke the $300 that you paid for that class? Or it's like, what would somebody have to pay you in order not to have taken that bars class?
That's a great way to frame it.
Yeah.
That's a great way to frame it.
That is, I heard Blossom Benedict say that once, and it's a great way to frame it, because it's like that actually starts to put some value on that.
Yeah.
And so it's like, for me, if I had to, because bars is the prerequisite for the foundation, for the ESB, and then those are the prerequisites for all these other things, it's like, I wouldn't give back my first bars class literally for $10 million. I would rather go $10 million in the hole than give back that class. Probably more. Like, it would be hundreds of thousands, like maybe billions, because I'm happy all the time and the tools work and I'm living the life that I want to live, and I can't put a price on that. And it only cost me $300 to open that door. So it is a really different way of looking at it. But that being said, it's like, money is a real struggling point for people in this reality. But the thing is that what you pay for something is usually what you get out of it. If you pay $300 for a session, you can get that much change out of a session based on your judgment of what $300 can create in your life. If you pay $2,000 for a class, that's the amount of change you're willing to receive out of that class. And when we do an access class, it's about who's in the room. The class isn't Gary or Dane or any facilitator like guiding you through anything. The class is all the people in the room choosing to get together and create a different possibility. And so every person that's in that room is integral to what gets created, and they have to want to be there. Like, really want to be there. And the only good determining factor of that Gary and Dane have found is money. So that's the prerequisite. And because if there's one person in that room who wants to hold back all the change, they can do so if they're in there. So that's an
interesting thing to hear.
Yeah. And that's why, and this is going to bring me back to your question, Katie, is like, that's why at a 7-day, when you go to a 7-day, you have to, you can't bring a friend with you who doesn't do access. You go by yourself, and in the resort that we have taken out for that 7 days, nobody other than the staff who take care of the place and the people who are taking the 7-day and Gary and Dane are allowed on the property, like on the property. So because the change that gets created, if there's one person there who's not doing the class, even like, I'll tell you guys a story. Do you need to go grab something, Katie?
No, I just heard a sound.
Okay. There's a story. Gary used to go to this place in Costa Rica called Sueño Azul, and he has since refused to ever go back there because the people who owned the hotel promised that they wouldn't let anybody else on the property. And they actually went and booked out some of the extra rooms without telling Gary. And people in the class, like these people who rented the rooms, these outside people, didn't even come near the conference room. But just by them being on the property, the class started going apeshit, and all these people started fighting and going crazy and going into judgment. But it's like at a 7-day, it's about creating a space of different possibilities. And there's a softening that takes place, and it's usually set in somewhere that's really, really has a really nurturing land and landscape. In Costa Rica, it's deep in the rainforest by a huge volcano. In New Zealand, it's in a chateau in the middle of nature. And if you've read Talk to the Entities, here, I'll grab the book off the shelf. If you've read Talk to the Entities by Shannon O'Hara, she really describes the landscape of the New Zealand 7-day. In South Africa, we're in the middle of what feels like nowhere on a protected game reserve, and every morning you get up at 5 a.m. and go out for a safari till 8:30 a.m. and like be with the animals. And a 7-day is not about the landscape, but the landscape is another facilitator of the change. So you can't have these people coming in and out with their hard judgments and get to the same space that's possible, as if everybody is there for the 7 days softening. And even the staff change completely. They're not in the conference room, but their lives have changed. A lot of the Access ladies have dated the staff or taken the staff home. And
Sure. That makes sense.
So.
Now that's beautiful. And now that you're talking about it, I wonder, actually, it piques my interest to hear your point of view about, like, let's back it up just a little bit. You're right. Like, for people who, it's like, start with Maestro and 7-day. What would,
it's okay.
Yeah. But from your point of view, like, what would you say, and I don't know if this is even a fair way to frame the question, but like, is the difference, if you will, or similarity, or what did you get out of foundation, maybe the first time you did it, and maybe every subsequent time, compared to 2-3 or COP? Like, can you compare them? Is there like a different energy to each of those classes for you? Or is it more just like a continuation of an expansion of a sort of a one thing that just continues?
No, there's a difference. Yeah, it's a really good question. There's a difference. Okay, so we need a flow chart. For what reason did I not spend the afternoon making a color-coded flow chart?
Maybe we can create one and send it to folks after the fact.
Maybe. Yeah, I know that Katerina has created one. There is one good one that lives somewhere.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm just going to make a quick flow chart, like just very bare bones, because that's a good way of learning. Oh, if I can find a piece of paper. Wait, this one. Okay. This is a very crumpled piece of paper. Okay, so bars.
I can only learn on very flat sheets of paper.
Then you're screwed, man. This is not the telecall or the Katie. That's funny. Okay, so energetic synthesis of being. I guess I can't write all of this, but let me just for the classes that you just mentioned, I just want to hold this up.
And in the meantime, if you guys need entertainment while Julia's doing that, this is the lobby of the Corte Madera Inn. That's the back of the Dale King. This is my face. That's nature outside. We're actually, this is relevant. We're here at the Corte Madera Inn in Marin, where Dr. Glenna Rice and I are going to do we're hosting a 3-hour restoration of communion with earth trade, which, for those of you who maybe don't know, is one of the body processes in Access Consciousness, which you would learn in what Gary and Dane call the body classes. So you can take a 3-day body class.
Yeah, that's not even on the flow chart. Gosh.
Girl, I'm sidebarring. I'm doing a sidebar right now.
You're putting too much pressure on me.
Yeah, you're going to die. So there's these things called 3-day body classes. And if you take 2 of those, then you can take what's called the advanced body, which Gary himself facilitates. And the body classes, oh, Julia, I think we could talk about that for just an hour, just that, the body process classes, because boy, have they rocketed my life and living in a whole different dimension.
So I've already screwed up the flow chart.
Let's just look at it. I want to see what you've written.
Okay. All right. This is wrong.
Can't see it.
Okay. Hold on. The light's going to just be turned off for a second.
Okay.
So this is your bars.
Yep.
This is your foundation, which you actually need for the energetic synthesis of being. So that's totally wrong. And you don't need bars for a 3-day body class. You need a foundation for that. So anyways, but Katie, we need like maybe flashcards. As you say things, we could flash the name. Anyways, maybe we'll do this again and we'll be more crafty and using office supplies. All right, so bars. What Katie was asking is about the foundation class, which you have to take a 1-day bars class. The foundation is 4 days. And then if you've taken a 4-day foundation, you can take a choice of possibilities class, COP, we call it. And that's only facilitated by the founders, Gary and Dane. So let's start there and just forget about all of this.
Cool.
So,
and briefly, real quick, sorry to interrupt you, but Vicky had a question. Since she's here, I figure we can look at it really briefly. She says, I was actually going to ask, would you recommend taking the body class before the ESB if you could take only one or the other at this point? And my response to her in the chat was simply, I'd say it depends on the person and go ahead and follow the energy. What seems like the next thing you're most excited about? So what I know is that if you're excited to get to a class, then that's the next indicated action. And that class will feed into whatever's going to come after that. And truly, that's not just me giving some answer to like brush you off. That's like, this is how this stuff works. Like, what's next is what's next for you.
right.
That being said, carry on.
Absolutely. I totally agree. Okay, so the foundation is a 4-day class, and oh, look at me! I'm so happy just thinking. And the foundation is my first foundation changed my life. Dr. Casey Crisp was my facilitator, and I did it with my mom and my sister and about 7 other people in Winnipeg, Canada. And oh my gosh, it changed my life. And
like in what way specifically?
in this is specifically, it, all those little subtle things that you just don't know how to put words to, and you just wish that they were somehow true, and everything else talks about it, but it doesn't exactly fit together to actually make your life better with tools. It was like 4 days of hearing exactly the things that I was looking for to a T. So, like, for some people, access doesn't totally fit them, the tools don't work for everybody. For me, in that class, it was like finding a roadmap to success. It was like somebody put in front of me a map to everything I desire. And I was like, all I have to do is follow this map. Not from a conclusion, not from, like, I knew I had to start asking questions, but in a sense, it was a complete and total color-coordinated rainbow roadmap to the pot of gold.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
The way that Casey explained things was so awesome. And some of the things, like, about other realities, like, I would ask her questions about it, and she would just ask me a question back and be like, well, what do you know about that, Julia? And I'd be like, well, I think maybe I know this. And she's like, well, then there you go. That's true. And I'm like, well, if Casey says it's true. And it was the beginning of me trusting myself. And now I feel like, now I trust myself mostly all the time. And that was the beginning. And it was like, I like myself. I don't have to judge myself. I don't have to be perfect. I don't have to, finish a stupid sociology degree in order to be successful in the world. I don't have to live by anybody's standards. I can become independently wealthy. I can use the tools to actualize any guy or partner I want to. Like all of that, and then the energetics of it too. But like, if you just looked at it on a surface level, it was like a roadmap to even just the surface things that people desire their whole life. The money, the relationship, the happiness, the friendship, like just the self-assurance, the confidence.
And was it through specific tools that were taught in Foundation that you came to those awarenesses, or kind of the whole thing?
No, it was like the whole thing.
Yeah. It
was more the conversations. And it was also like just what was written in the manual. Like, when you take the Foundation, you get a 200, you get a 200, no, now it's smaller. You get like a 130-page manual. And my husband, Anthony Mattis, who Katie knows very well, he is also a facilitator of the foundation and has taken it probably 10 times with other facilitators over the years, and he's from New Jersey. So I say it was a sunshine rainbow roadmap, and he says that the foundation for him is like getting punched in the gut repeatedly and slapped upside the head into consciousness.
That's funny.
So, and it's going to be really different for each person. Like, I'm giving you guys my interpretation. It's probably not going to be that for you.
Yeah.
It's going to be greater for you because it's going to be for you.
For you. I could tell you what it was for me, which might be useful to some people who have a different, path than Julia or than Anthony. So I came into Access. Julia, you have the pleasure, I think it's a pleasure anyway, of coming in, not having done 1,000 other systems. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yep. You and Blossom, I always sort of admire that about you and Blossom's story, in that Blossom didn't waste a lot of time doing a lot of other shit. She just showed up at Access and was boom, off and running. And same sort of similar with you.
Yep.
I did a lot of other stuff before I got to Access. So I did 6 years of Kundalini yoga practice, very seriously, daily, several times a day sometimes. 6 years of really serious 12-step recovery, and then 6 more after that. I went to a 4-year energy healing school called the University of Spiritual Healing and Sufism.
You did more than I even realized.
Girl, no joke.
Oh, that's serious.
Oh yeah, and I have a whole show about all the types of healers I've worked with. I have a line in one of my shows where I say I've done cranial, sacral, somatic, chiropractic, polarity balancing, toning, meditation, serenity baths, mud packs on my eyes, a spa, a retreat. It's all about what you eat. I've done it all. Right. I really have. And what I can say is that by the time I got to Access, for me, what had happened was I had gotten a lot of peace and a lot of inner connection to the divine, which actually did a lot of very important things for me. I now look back and realize there was a lot of demon clearing that happened for me in that spiritual work. Some spiritual work, though this may surprise some Access people, actually helps get rid of entities and demons. Not everybody knows that, but that's true. And but what it hadn't helped me in particular do was create my outside life with ease. And I started to look at, I started to pray actually to God and the universe and go, well, what else is possible here? How can I have this inner connection to the divine light, if you want to call it that, and have some money and have ease with creation and go back to, I got so spiritual that I stopped caring about my theater career and I stopped caring about money, and I was super detached from this world. So when I wound up with playing with the Access tools, I jumped in with both feet, as I tend to do, and I took 3 bars classes and 2 foundations all within 4 months or some crazy thing like that. And a lot of it was with my buddy Gosha Lorenz, who many of you know. Anyway, so by the time I got to foundation and was taking it, it was Gosha and I sitting in a room together. I think we did it alone one of the times, or maybe there was someone else in the room. It was, we did things we destroyed and uncreated my eternal soul, or is that the phrase? Mm-hmm. Eternal soul. And we destroyed and uncreated some commitments to some other lifetimes and being a portal to demons and entities and all this kind of stuff that was what it did for me is it was the practical end of being connected to what I would call the other realms. So it was I had my whole life, and then I swear I'll stop talking. No. And I get on these rolls and I'm bah, 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 bah. But anyway, my whole life, I always had this awareness. I remember literally being 8 years old and thinking, I think that everything we decide is what shows up outside. I knew that your point of view creates your reality. I didn't have that language for it, but I just knew that. And I also somehow just knew, this is how I thought of it in my head. There must be a way that you could bring some kind of light or energy into the places in your body where the lies were and eradicate it, such that the world you would see outside would reflect that now eradicated place that you had eradicated those lies with. And I don't know how I knew that, but when I was sitting in that foundation with Gosha alone in my living room, it was she was showing me the thing I had always known, the tool of pot and pocking and the tool of uncreating and destroying and oaths and vows and commitments. It's like when I was 8, I was laying in my bedroom knowing this stuff, and there she was teaching it to me. Now, for me, it didn't take the entire place of everything else I've studied, because there's great value, actually, I've now come to understand in what I did study before. And it was a missing piece in a practical way for me.
Mm-hmm. A lot of people say that. And it was the same, like very similar for me in the sense of like the things that I lay awake at night as a little kid, like yearning for and imagining. It was like that foundation was like a roadmap to that.
Interesting. And so what would you say for you is the difference between foundation and COP? Back to that question.
Okay. So the choice of possibilities, COP, it's like in Access, it could be like, we're going to the ESB after the SOP and doing some COP, and then there'll be an ESC after the COP lunchtime.
Yeah, we're all ADD and OCD. And
yeah. And if you want to go to the advanced body, that's an ABC. Uh-huh. Yeah, so and we're all OCD, exactly. So it's like the choice of possibilities class, for me,
it's hard to articulate, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's like, I don't know. There's something about Gary and Dane. There's some sort of allowance that they have, and God damn it, I'm going to get there as soon as I can. Yeah. And I literally have this yearning to be that much an allowance and that much no judgment. And like every second of every day, I'm like, what else can I be that I'm not being that will create me as that? My version of that, a kind. But there's something about, gosh, let's just put it this way. Somebody who really knew how much Gary could see but didn't want to be seen could not even go into that class or that room because there's this sense of being seen in a way that I don't think exists anywhere else on the planet. Gary talks about how most of us just see the leaves of ourselves, like there's this leaf and this leaf and this leaf, and it's like Gary can see the whole tree. And when somebody sees you that way, it changes you somehow. When somebody sees you with total allowance for all the things that you think are so bad and terrible about you, and it's like I could perceive how he at that time, how he could see out into my future and what I could become. Not it's what I was and was hiding, but at that time it's like he can see what I could become. But it was really just me uncovering the me that was already there. And it was actually in Hotel Nico in San Francisco, my first class with Gary. And it was like, I changed so fast that weekend. I mean, during Dane's ESC, I cried and cried and cried. And then the next one, I was like totally elated and like had this amazing space. And I would go up and I asked Gary questions. And my sister, actually, Carly, she's 22. And she used the tools of Access to get a $100,000 scholarship to the best school in Canada. And so I put my hand up and I said, thank you so much, Gary, for on behalf of my family, thank you for giving us these tools so that my sister could win this $100,000 scholarship. And I just thought that was the most incredible thing in the world. And that's like meh compared to like what life is now. Like it doesn't even mean anything anymore. And that was an amazing thing I could imagine. It's like $100,000 scholarship. But it was like an introduction. It was really the choice of possibilities. It's like I became acutely aware of the fact that I could have anything, any life I wanted. Like everything that I was taught for those days melted away. And it was like being like a kid in a candy store, but like times a million, because it really was a choice of possibilities. Like when you think about a kid in a candy store, it's actually about the choices of all the possibilities of the candy. And for me, it was like, I can have any life. I'm not just little Julia from the farm who's going to, you know, if she's lucky, become a professor and run for politics. Like that's what I kind of thought I was going to do. And it's like I could be everything. And so that for me was a choice of possibilities, was like being seen at that level, and then what that took the quantum entanglements of the universe out to create. This is so fun talking about this. I have thought about this stuff since it happened.
That's awesome. Yeah. I have a question. I'm wondering if anybody that's here, because Julia's giving us a lot of information already. We both kind of are. I'm wondering, does anyone have a question? Anyone that's listening here? Alex, Vicky, Marcia. I'm just getting that there may be a question in the room.
Yeah.
And maybe not. Somebody in the future who's watching.
They were asking it in their head.
Yeah, cool. All right, well, if nobody has a question, yeah, that's fucking gorgeous what you're saying, Julia. I can't even, I mean, I feel like I'm just now, like having taken several COPs and several foundations, starting to, here we have a question. Right. Starting to perceive these possibilities. And I kind of want to talk about it for people's sake of like specifically an example of my version of what you just said, just to give people.
No, that would be really, really helpful for people.
Cool. So Vicky says, how do you perceive all these energies that you are capable of perceiving? Is it practice?
Yeah, okay, so a lot of practice.
A lot of practice. And Gary says all the time, you have to practice these tools. We're giving you tools, and it's a way of living and a way of being, but you have to practice or they don't do anything. Even like the basic tool of light and heavy is, boy, has that been a practice for me. There's a lot in that can seem light or seem heavy, or it depends on how you ask the question and which question you ask, and have you popped your projections about it before you ask. There can be a lot to just that simple tool. So yes, Vicky, it's practice. And to speak to what Julia was just saying and to your question.
Vicky says, sorry, I have to interrupt. She said, I'm practicing all day and night. Well, then you're going to get there. You're going to get there.
That's how it works.
Yeah.
How does it get better? I'll give you an example. No problem, Vicky, totally. I came back from, I'll give you an example of like these possibilities that show up that maybe were always there, but I couldn't see them until some window of consciousness was opened through one of the classes. And it was, trying to remember which class it was. I think it was a COP actually that I came back from. Anyway, I came back, and whenever I come back from an access class, oftentimes I'm just like, I have no idea who I am. My life doesn't fit me anymore. I hate all my clothes. I'm breaking up with my boyfriend. I hate my apartment. Like, I'm just like, what is this planet I've built for myself? Because I'm a whole different person now, which can be an interesting challenge to deal with. But this one particular time I came back, I remember I was sitting at my desk and I was like, well, I don't create money the way I did a week ago because I don't care about any of the things I was creating before. So how do I create money now? Like, what would I even like to create? And as I asked the question, this is just so interesting and random, I got an awareness of this woman who maybe 3 years before had been to one of my stand-up comedy shows. And for those of you who don't know me, I do stand-up comedy about consciousness and have been for many years prior to Access. I got invited to do a TEDx talk. This was before Access, and I did it in Grass Valley. And they hired a speaking coach to come coach the speakers, because some of these people were sort of brand new to speaking. So she and I got along really well. We kind of hit it off, and I didn't really need a speaking coach because I'd done a lot of speaking at that point, and I was just like, hey buddy, yeah, I know that stuff, cool. So we like hit it off. We stayed friends. Now here it is 3 years later. I've just come back from an access class. For some random reason, she goes through my consciousness, like, say hi to Juliet, see how she's doing. So I message her and I'm like, what are you doing, lady? How are you? Which Gary says a lot of times, like, just when you don't know what to do, just ask people how they're doing and something will arise from it.
Yeah.
Anyway, so she's, oh, I'm great. In this Stanford studies on public speaking, presence, business, and she said, thinking of you, if you wanted to come teach a one-day comedy class. And I was like, well, yeah, I totally want to do that. In fact, that's been to work with business people with comedy stuff to help them with their communication skills and empowerment and all that. So I go in, I teach this one-day thing, and then another passing thought comes through my mind of like, I bet I could just email her boss and pitch him a class. So I got your boss's email? She goes, yeah. So I just emailed her boss, some random guy who's never met me. And I'm like, hi, here's my resume. I've done all this teaching. I've done all this improv. I'm a consciousness lady. I do comedy stuff. Can I teach a class at Stanford? Which is not how it's supposed to work, right? You're not supposed to just ask somebody if you can teach at Stanford. You're supposed to like get a PhD and go through all the channels. And I don't even know what the fucking channels are. So he writes back and he goes, yeah. And I was like, okay. And so we had a coffee. He's like, let's meet for coffee and iron out the details. So we meet for coffee and I like blab about, I went to Amherst College and here's what I don't even know what we had said in that conversation, but the long and short of it is right now I'm teaching a 10-week class at Stanford. And that shouldn't be happening according to how this reality works. There should be like proper channels you go through and I don't know what you're supposed to do. I just know that like passing weird ideas come through my consciousness but that passing idea was the vision of a possibility of what my future could be that I literally didn't see until after that class because some space opened. And that woman, I've known her all the years I've been doing Access and doing other things, never brought that up to her before. And you're muted, Julia, just so you know.
Right. And, you know, I in one of the videos that's promotional material for Access, I said, it's easier to be a dreamer and it's more comfortable to be a dreamer than somebody who's living your dream.
I saw that.
Yeah. And it's like nobody lives their dreams. Like I don't really know anybody, even millionaires are unsatisfied. People who are celebrities kill themselves and do drugs. It's like nobody's actually living the dreams, their dream or their dreams. And what Access has allowed me to do, and I don't want to oversell it because it's very uncomfortable. It's not for the weak at heart. And if you're going to do these classes and move forward and create your dreams and move out of being a dreamer, it's like you are going to become intimately aware with all the dark energies that live in your world.
Yep.
And you are going to have to look them straight in the face, and some of them take years to get through. Even with the tools, even when you're working day and night and practicing, some of those things take years. And it is not an easy journey.
Thank you for saying that, Julia. I think a lot of people really need to hear that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like we have spent 4 trillion years creating
bullshit,
screwed up places. And the fact that we can even get out of it in a 10-year span using tools is a miracle.
I thank you for saying that because that brings back the discussion we were starting to have about the body process classes, which I'll just give you a brief example for anybody this might be useful for. I recently had, to Julia's point, a body process run. Just casually, a buddy of mine came over and was like, let's run this process. And we ran it. one time for half an hour.
So what does it mean to run a body process?
Yeah, so great question, Julia. So that's where there are these books that you get at the body classes and the advanced body class that are filled with these things called body processes. And the body processes are, you'll put your hands on somebody's body and you'll call up the energy of the process. So for example, this particular process I'm talking about, don't get caught up on this one if you're new, but it just happens to be the name of this one. It's called mesomuscular embodiment and the elimination and eradication of human DNA.
Cool.
My friend Jen put her hands on 2 different parts of my body that are indicated in the book where you put your hands. And then she said the name of the process, mesomuscular embodiment, blah, 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 run. And she'll say that 3 times. And then you'll suddenly experience the energy running. You will perceive something, and it's going to be different for everybody. But what I want to say about it in this case is she ran this one process. We did it for half an hour. She had her hands on my body, and my entire life fell apart for 10 days. I was sick, coughing, exhausted, tired, couldn't get out of bed, didn't care about living. And after 10 days, I don't know why 10 days, and I was using tools in those 10 days and trying to pot and pock myself out of it and trying to call people and doing everything I knew. I was a mess for a good 10 days. At the end of the 10 days, I was 100% a different person. And I haven't gone back since then. And the kind of different I was like 1,000 pounds lighter inside my body. I could cry thinking about it. And 10 steps closer to being the level of allowance I'd like to be, which is what you started this call with, Julia, is talking about how to be that space that Gary and Dane embody. Yeah. And I tell that story just so that people have a sense of sometimes, like you said, it's not a pretty cakewalk and I changed and everything's great and then I bought a trampoline for my yard. No, sometimes it's that. And other times it's...
And then I bought a trampoline for my yard. You kill me.
Then we bought our pretty house in Charleston. Everything's great now. It's like sometimes, other times you got to spend a fucking bunch of days coughing phlegm out of your fucking lungs.
Totally.
While trying to still create your life.
Totally. And
everything's different on the other side.
Let me say that, pardon me, there are 3 times I can think of off the top of my head. 2 times. One was like about having my heart broken, but 2 times in the last 6 years I've been doing Access Consciousness, I literally thought I was going to die. Not figuratively, I literally thought I was going to die.
Well, what had happened that brought that about?
Just one sec, Katie. Yeah?
Sure.
Oh, awesome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Say hi. Tell everyone I said hi.
Okay. I said hi to everyone.
Hi, Aria.
It's my 8-year-old daughter. She and her friend made themselves like some sort of pudding milkshake thing and put strawberries on the side of the glass, so they had to show me.
Adorable.
Yeah. So, what sparked that was the question?
Yeah, I mean, like, were you in a class and something got cleared and you were going to die, or were you doing the money workbook, or what?
That's a good question. So, the first time was at the 9 Trannies. I love how this is Access Classes Explained, and we're diving into the parts where I literally thought I was going to die. But it is a good explanation, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's not actually discouraging. It's encouraging because it shows you the level of death, agony, sorrow, pain, hatred, suicide that's actually being purged out of you when that's coming up. Yeah. And for you, you know, what you just described about 10 days of being sick like that, it's like to me, you said like it was gone after the 10 days was over, and your life was so different. It makes you want to cry. So it's like, for me, the first time was after the 9 Trannies class, which was the biggest class in Access. Oh, can you use that one? So it was like within
9 Trannies, biggest class.
Yeah, it was the biggest class. It was 700 people, and in the middle of the night, after the last day of class, I woke up and I was in a I was panting and I was in a panic, and I literally thought I was going crazy and my mind was telling me that I was dying, and I was like writhing around on the bed in agony, and I was just in total, I was so scared. I thought I was going to, my thoughts were changing. I'm going to die. I've gone crazy. I'm going to be put in a mental institution. My life is over. And really on the core level, I believed that. But it was really just things coming out of me. And then it was like a month later, I started dating my husband. You know what I mean? And everything. And 6 months later, I started to actually have money. And then, a few months after that, I like almost completely quit judging myself. And so it was like the change that created was just monumental. And it was as uncomfortable as that. So, are you there?
Okay, you froze up a little bit there. Yeah, you were freezing and unfreezing. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. One thing I should share is I've got about five minutes, and then I got to hop off.
No worries.
But yeah, that's an incredible story. And does anyone have a question now? Alex, Vicky, Marsha, anyone else who, and then Modiati's iPad. You're muted again, Julia, just FYI.
Oh, thanks.
No problem. Whew.
Yeah.
Right.
So we've gotten through foundation, a 7-day, and a COP. Not bad.
And we talked about body classes.
We talked about body processes.
Yeah.
In the 3-day body class, you get a book with about 56 body processes in it, and you get a partner, and you guys work together and run processes on each other, trading back and forth on a massage table all day. It's really dynamic.
What about? Go ahead.
I was going to just go into ESB and SOP.
Yeah.
Which is that what you're asking?
Yep.
Yeah. So ESB stands for Energetic Synthesis of Being. And it's the girls in the background here, if you're hearing giggling.
And our class is starting, so there's people.
Okay.
With you for like another 3
I'll go through this quickly. So the ESB is Energetic Synthesis of Being. And what that is it's 3.5, it's a 3-day class. And Dane is the only facilitator of this class. And it's basically energetically being so present with somebody, being so caring with somebody, being such allowance for somebody, and being such total kindness for somebody, and also the willingness to kill any limitation they have. And being that and allowing yourself to just be present with somebody in that way in order for their whole life to change. And the Symphony of Possibilities, which you have to have taken a choice of possibilities, and actually, I don't know if you have to have taken a choice of possibilities, not sure. Yeah. You have to have taken a choice of possibilities and an energetic synthesis of being class. You have to take in both of those. That's actually in the ESB class that I was just describing. That is where Dane works with other people doing that. In the Symphony of Possibilities class that comes after that, you get a partner and you actually work with these energies on people. And it sort of looks like this, like waving your hands over the body.
Ooh, yeah.
Exactamendo. So,
one thing I could say just to add to that about the SOP stuff for anybody who's newer is that for me, there was a while where I was like, this SOP thing seems like unrelated and like a separate thing, and I don't even care. I don't even know what that is. And I'm like, what is all that? Oh, and they're writhing on the table and they're going like this. Well, who cares? But then one day, somebody ran some SOP on my body in one of the classes, in a COP that I was in, and it was like my body got attuned almost to the frequency, if you will, of that energy. And then I found those may not be the correct words, I don't know. But then I found myself with my clients, because I work as an energy worker with private clients, SOPing them. Because without having to cognitively, I don't know anything about what I'm doing cognitively. I just know that I can perceive energies of limitation in people. And I already know a lot about energy work from all the other studies that I've mentioned. But somehow the SOP started to work its way into what I was already doing with people. my point being, it's the kind of thing where you can taste it energetically in your being and become aware of.
Taste it energetically. I love it.
That's a Sufi term. And they talk about tasting the light, and it always resonates for me, that language, because it is like tasting it through the fabric of the cells of your body and your being. You be it, you taste it. You don't just like think about it or whatever. Anyway, so that was fascinating. And ever since then, I've been like, ooh, can't wait to get to SOP now, because I really want to know what the hell I'm doing. And I really want to dive deeply into what that is, because I know that there's so much more. Hi, it's right up there. Hi. I have to go.
One more thing.
Yes.
What classes do you facilitate?
Why, thank you for asking, Julia Sotas. So I'm still a bars facilitator, and I'm this close to becoming a CF. So I just teach, I teach bars classes, and I'll do certain shorter 4-hour long or less telecalls on all kinds of different subjects where we use the access tools to clear things. Right now, the class I have that starts next week is not an access class. It's a class called Tell Your Story, where people can come and create any creative project they're working on. I have 20 years experience as a solo show performer, stand-up comic, regional theater actor, director. So you can come to this class. It's a 6 or 7 week class that meets online on Tuesday nights, and write a solo show, write a stand-up set, write your blog content, write video content, write, whatever. And we do secretly a little bit use the tools of access consciousness in the class to clear stuff that comes up for people as we're in the creative process. Because in the creative process, stuff is known to come up.
Yeah.
Kind of like in the process of anything, stuff is known to come up.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
And also, one of the classes that I'm facilitating in San Francisco at the Ritz-Carlton Hotel, and Katie is hosting me, is the foundation. So if you would like to dive into that energy and create, get, whatever it's going to be for you, if you'd like to change your life in that way, come and join us in San Francisco. There's people flying in, and it's going to be an amazing weekend. So
that'll be June 9th to the 12th.
Mm-hmm.
And then one final plug, and I'm going to pop off, is if you're looking for a class also that's like a lot of fun combined with the foundation, there's a great class that Blossom Benedict does called Living the Foundation, which happens in late June. That is like 5 or 7 days of like riding horses and taking improv classes and going for walks in nature and learning the foundation in the afternoon. So that's another thing that's happening that people that we love are creating.
Yeah,
so
that's awesome.
You can join me next week at writing class. Tell Your Story with Katie.weebly.com to make it real hard. Tell Your Story with Katie.weebly.com. Julia's Foundation, June 9th through 12th, which you can find on the Access Consciousness site, and Living the Foundation with Blossom that you can find on accessconsciousness.com.
Awesome. Well, this is a great talk. We've covered a lot in 60 minutes.
And we're going to have to do more, Julia.
Yeah. I think right. I've been like, no, Katie, no more. My schedule's done. But it's always so much fun.
In the future.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you guys so much. And how does it get better than this? And what else is possible?
Bye.
Bye, guys. Thanks, Vicki.